Hey guys, this is Naveen here. Welcome back to Naveen Automation Labs. And today we have a very good webinar. Hey Prateek, hey Priyanka, how are you? Good evening. Hey Mukesh, thanks for joining. So we have one very interesting. Just can you confirm that are you able to see me properly? My voice is clear and there is no lag and there is no echo in the voice. Hey Santosh, hey John. So we have a very interesting webinar today that I'm going to introduce very soon, but let other people to join. And and I'm pretty much sure that you will be liking this tool, this concept, and there are a lot of. I mean, I'm really impressed. I'm already doing a lot of POC on with this tool, and then really impressed the features and the kind of things that the way we can automate the things without writing the code. So typically, it's not like a codeless automation tool, but it's like a more of a how exactly the way a user tests the application or user uses the application, how exactly we do that. Exactly same similar kind of way you can do that. And it'd be a great help for manual testers as well. I mean, if you are into functional testing or manual testing, and then it will be a big relief the way you are writing the test cases and you are spending your energy and wasting your energy in writing the manual test cases exactly same way that you can write directly into automation, and then you don't need to write any other automation tool or for that. It is totally different from Selenium, totally different from a typical script based automation tool, and I'm pretty much sure and it is having a great it will capture the great market in the future, but it's quite stable also and a lot of good things you can do. So perfect. So I think we have around 100 people they already joined. Let other two join. Hey Hari, thank you joining. Rohit, Santosh, Rakesh. So just confirm my voice is clear and there is no lag or there is no echo in the voice. It's perfectly fine, right? Good morning, Azaz, watching from Canada. Thank you. Thank you, Arpan. Thanks, Bindu. Thanks, Ashish. Great. I think we have now around 118 people. And we will do one thing that the guest that I'm going to introduce very soon with you guys. So he is the CEO of, let me just first add him to the stream. Hey, Adam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much joining, Adam. So we were talking about your tool. So guys, uh, he's Artem. He's the CEO of the testRigor, and such a great work, Artem, you have done. And thank you, thanks that you have given us the time on our channel. And I'm pretty much sure that okay, your demo and your about the tool, it will definitely help the QA community, and people will learn a lot of good things. And then definitely, it will make their life easy with respect to testing. So Artem is the CEO of the company, and I think you are the founder of the tool also. And I have already done the POC and still exploring the tool. So far, it's looking great, and a lot of good things that you can do. The way you are writing the manual test cases, exactly same thing. The plain English sentence that you can write follow the certain patterns. No need to remember such high undo keywords here, but the plain English you can write, and then it will automatically. It's so smart automatically it will try to automate the things and then it will give you the proper results and everything. So the session flow will be like this, that we will start with the Artem will start with the basics and intro and about the tool and some definitely some important use cases. In between, if you have any questions to ask, feel free to ask in the comment section. I'll be taking the questions from the live audience, and then at the end, after 30-40 minutes, when we are done with the sessions, we will take some really good questions also from the audience. And I'm pretty much sure Artem will be solving and then giving the answers for those questions. If something is missing or something is, we will be able to do that. I'll be really sorry, guys, that might be possible we won't be able to take each and every question, but please stick to the topic. No need to ask about anything with respect to automation or career guidance right now. because maybe we won't be able to entertain those questions in this live session. So, Artem, thank you so much once again. Thanks for joining. And now the stage is yours.
Absolutely. Thank you, Naveen, for having me today. Uh, well, I'm happy to present testRigor, and testRigor helps our users to solve several challenges. So, firstly, it allows our users to build a complex automation, even if you're not necessarily a trained engineer. And the key thing here is complex, because there is always record and play stuff and all that, but you usually can't build anything meaningful in there. In testRigor, you can. So this is one. And second, we help our customers to solve test maintenance problem. Test maintenance is a huge deal, and this is what we see is number one reason why people
Hmm.
don't have enough automation. This is number one reason why people still have manual testing even though we're trying to automate. And the way we address test maintenance is by allowing people to express steps
Hmm.
purely from end user perspective, and
Hmm.
the tool executed exactly the way how you would do it if you were executing it manually. That's the stark contrast with how Selenium and all other tools will do it, relying on HTML structure.
Correct.
All right, so let me share a little bit of screen. I will show you some pictures
Sure.
to clarify what I mean exactly by all of it. Okay, hopefully you can see my screen.
I can see. Let me confirm with the audience as well. So, can you guys please confirm? Are you able to see the screen? Can you see some Selenium code there? I think, yeah, we can see that. So, yeah, please go ahead.
Great. So here, as you can see, on the left side is Selenium code, on the right side is testRigor code. Um,
Mhm.
sorry, my daughter having fun in there.
Sure,
Uh,
no problem.
and of course, you just won't be able to understand and deal with Selenium code in here unless you are an engineer, right? So there's even though it is very straightforward, there's a lot of engineering constructs involved here. On testRigor, it's not like that. It's literally how you would write instructions or your test case. The way you would write your test case, this is how you would write testRigor code. So as you can see
Mhm.
here as an example. But the most important part, which really helps our users to reduce the maintenance, is that if you see the problem with Selenium code is the fact that it relies on HTML structure, and therefore details of implementation in order to interact with elements. And examples
Hmm.
here are, as you can see, it's finding username and password by IDs, then it's using names, and later on it uses XPath. All of those might sound good and all, but they actually details of implementation of how engineers decided to implement this page in
Hmm.
that particular moment. So by using those details of implementation, Selenium forces you to just test this particular implementation as opposed to testing your end-to-end flow from the user's perspective. And therefore,
Mhm.
what is happening is that as soon as engineers would migrate to a new framework, for example, from Angular to React, or start to use different components and so on and so forth, or just change HTML a little bit, the Selenium test would break because we are
Mm-hmm.
tightly coupled with how engineers wrote this HTML in the first place. Uh, this is exactly the problem testRigor addresses. So regardless of how it has been coded, as soon as it works from end user's perspective and complies with specification, and specification is still true, testRigor guarantees that the test will be green. And it's actually a big problem in general. What we see
Mm-hmm.
across the board, it's at around 350 tests. It's becoming a full-time job for a person to just maintain tests if you're writing Selenium. I mean, mind you, the first 10, 20, 30 tests you can write very quickly, but then all your time would be wasted in test maintenance at some point full time. And that is the number one reason why people on average have 30% test coverage today in 2022, which is ridiculous if you think
Mm-hmm.
about it. So it's just because of test maintenance is so huge. And the reason why we have such a huge test maintenance is because instead of testing from end user's perspective, Selenium forces you to test just specific implementation. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, as soon as implementation changes, it incurs a lot of maintenance. Our customers spend 200 times less time maintaining the code. All right, so how does it look like? This is how it looks like. So this is an example of click. Validation. This is click. This is click with relative location. Of course, you can enter data. Of course, you can generate unique data, and you can use test data sets and so on and so forth. And of course, you can group your steps and give them arbitrary names. We get to that in a second. So basically, the point of testRigor is that we are trying to make parsing of this English as close as possible to how you would express it as you were saying it yourself in English.
Mm-hmm.
So there is actually, I can walk you through multiple examples where what we are saying as humans is drastically different from mathematical sense of it, how engineers would expect it to work. And we are implementing the ways which are reflecting how would you say it, and therefore like kind of common sense and all this kind of stuff. Our goal long term is to allow people to just come in and write those steps purely from end users perspective out of the box. Let me try to reduce the size a little bit to make it more clean, without even need to read the documentation. So that's our goal. In from what we see so far, at about 85% of the cases, people are able to build a test without reading documentation so far. All right. So now, what do I mean exactly when I'm saying that testRigor does it from end user's perspective, and how is that how different when we execute tests manually, and how testRigor does it as opposed to Selenium and basically any other tool today? Well, in the testRigor, then testRigor basically executes the way you would provide instruction for manual tester, and it executed the way a human would do it, like, or you would do it if you were to execute those instructions yourself manually. What do I mean by that? So, for example, you can click communication preferences here, pretty trivial. You can say enter product into search products, and most importantly, you can say, for example, here is enter test into first space name, enter rigor into last name. And
Mm-hmm.
here, first name and last name are not anyhow related technically in HTML to those inputs. It's just for us as humans, those texts look as if, quote unquote, they are labels. And
Mm-hmm.
therefore, we refer to inputs in here using this text, which to us humans look as if it's a label. And testRigor does literally exactly that. So you can refer to inputs by labels like that. Moreover,
Mm-hmm.
it implements common sense, emulating how human would find them, and that what makes it stable. For example, you could HTML could completely change. It doesn't matter, and this input could be moved somewhere else or
Mm-hmm.
to another section. And doesn't matter. As soon as you can find it as a human, testRigor would be able to do the same. The label could be moved to the left. Doesn't matter, because as soon as you can find it as a human, testRigor would be able to do the same. And moreover, a day after tomorrow, there will be no label there anymore, or no text which looks like label. And engineers would migrate to use placeholders. Then it's great. It doesn't matter. As soon as you can find this input as a human, testRigor would be able to do that, because how testRigor works is it reads your plain text specification, and it is literally plain text. You can write it down even before functionality is ready, and it
Mm-hmm.
will execute it every time, emulating how a user would do it. So it will wait until page will load, and basically start mimic the steps how users would execute those steps. I see the Deepak Kumar asked the question: how would you deal with a situation where like you have the same field multiple times on the screen? And I agree, this is an exceptionally important situation. Moreover, it's pretty widespread, because imagine you have an application where you basically setting up a move, right? You're moving your belongings from address A to address B. So basically, it is two sets of identical elements, and the only difference is a section, right? So ones are in section move from, and another ones are in a section move to. And we have this similar situation on the screen right now, where we
Mm-hmm.
have two identical update buttons, right? One is in personal information section, and another one is in change your password section. So how exactly would you click, for example, on this update button and not that one? And
Yeah.
again, so it just comes down to how you would express it as a human from end user's perspective. Most probably, you would want to just say to hook it up to a section, because like this is structurally and logically where it belongs, right? Because it might be
Correct.
it not necessarily just two, there might be three sections and so on and so forth, and then those sections might move around, so you want to be sure that it is in that section. And how would you say it in English? So the majority of people would say something like click update under change your password, which is supported in testRigor out of the box. You can also
Mm-hmm.
say click update and change your password section, or
Mm-hmm.
you can say in some use cases, the appropriate way to say it is click on a second update, and so on and so forth. There are 10,000 other different ways how you can refer to this button. So as soon as you can do it in English,
Mm-hmm.
then testRigor should be able to understand and execute those.
So I can say, click on second button, which is below change password and current password field, right? I can
Yeah,
say like that.
yes,
And
exactly. So exactly, you can say update below current password field. Like literally
Hmm.
exactly those words are supported.
Okay.
So, and yes, exactly same approach BJ works for mobile testing as well. It's the same concept and same way. It
Hmm.
just works with a mobile screen as opposed to HTML browser.
So we have an
All right.
interesting question that coding knowledge is really required to use this tool.
No, there is no coding knowledge required. That's the whole point.
Hmm.
What's required is ability to read and write English language. So as soon as you can read and write English, you should be good to go. As
Hmm.
here, as you can see, it's all very straightforward. If you are in a doubt or want to find out something, there is documentation links all over the place. It's always also on top of the editor, and you can open it up and
Hmm.
consult how you could do that. So that's an example of different types of clicks. And this example, we would generate unique email, which is as simple as just saying exactly that, and so on and so forth. Like there's a table of command in there.
Okay.
All right. So the second example I would like to come up with is tables.
Hmm.
Let me start with this table one. So oftentimes it is very important for application to work with tables, and the vast majority of application we usually deal with have some kind of tables in one form or
Correct.
another. It's especially true for anything related to finance, financial applications, and then anything which works with any structured data.
Hmm.
And basically, again, in testRigor, you can express it from a user's
Hmm.
perspective. Let's say you need to click on this second button, or you need to delete
Hmm.
this row which contains the unique ID. You can say click on
Hmm.
the second button on a row containing this ID and column actions,
Hmm.
which would be a little bit of a challenge to do in Selenium because
Hmm.
in Selenium, so if you, this is what you would see as a kind of classical table structure in there. So in Selenium, if you copy XPath, and I tried. Uh,
So in Selenium,
uh,
what we have to do that we have to go to the table, and then we have to use the concept of XPath, the concept of sibling and following XPath that we have to use, and then we have to find out the specific row, and then TR2, TD3, A2, such things that we have to use, and then identify that particular element.
yes. So as you can see, this is pretty much like
Hmm.
unreadable, and it relies on indexes in here, second
Hmm.
row, third column, and second. Of course, if you really know very well programming and XPath programming in particular, you might
Hmm.
be able to construct, in certain cases, a very sophisticated XPath which relies
Hmm.
on this ID in a second column, but which still be basically
Hmm.
hooking it up to like second and fourth columns instead of in order to be able to do that. So as you can see, it's pretty fragile if you do it with XPath and Selenium, because tomorrow this actions column will become last one, and like the test will fail. Or ID will become the first column, again the test will fail, and or there will be more columns added and where it will lead to failure. Moreover,
Hmm.
I want to show you an interesting example is in here. So this is
Hmm.
our current page, and now we go to a different page. So table 3. As
Hmm.
you can see, there is literally no visual changes whatsoever. It's pixel to pixel identical table. However,
Hmm.
if we look into how it looks, there is no table anymore,
Oh,
right? And
okay.
this could be the situation where
Hmm.
engineers just updated their library, which renders the table, and what happened is new version of the library, instead of rendering it as a table, renders it as a div. And now all those carefully constructed XPaths no longer working, and we have
Hmm.
to rewrite working with tables from scratch. So if you think
Hmm.
about it, but it is exactly the time where engineers would expect you to help them to test that everything works fine, because we are releasing potentially breaking change, changing how tables work, even though from end user's perspective, everything is literally identical. So
Hmm.
what it means is that in this example, as well as many other examples, Selenium doesn't do a job, and it fails to help engineers to validate that everything still works from end user's perspective. At the most
Hmm.
critical moment, when it's needed the most, where rendering changes, and it
Hmm.
fails because when you write when you write Selenium code, you rely on details of implementation. You basically relying on how engineers coded it in the first place in order to refer to those elements. Um, So now, in case of testRigor, it would be identical command, and this is an example of that command in here, because from a user's perspective, there is no difference. You just saying click on a second button on a row containing SPK and call actions, and it doesn't matter how it is rendered. It doesn't matter where
Hmm.
a call is located, where this ID is located. As soon as from end users point of view, the specification is still correct, it will continue to function. So
Hmm.
this is basically the point of testRigor and how it helps to reduce dramatically test maintenance.
Can you
So much
highlight that?
so, like,
Yeah. Can
yeah,
you sorry to interrupt? Can you highlight that the command once again? The click on second button, and just a little bit zoom in so
yes,
that people can see that. Yeah. So here you can see that click on the second button. Okay, button means the delete button you're talking about, right? Within the context of
yes,
table at row where it contains SPK2 and column action. This is just like SQL query that we write like
yeah, kind of.
that, kind of.
Um, all right, so now let me answer a couple of questions which came up. I think
Yeah,
it's really good. So the first question was, um, what do
I'm
we
going to
do?
I'm going to highlight
What
those
do we?
questions and then yeah.
Yeah, I noticed very important questions like what do we do in case if there are iframes and shadow DOMs, right?
Hmm, correct.
It is. Um it's basically, for example, like this section might be inside an iframe, and testRigor has been built the way such that it basically built to mimic execution of commands similar to how you do it manually. And when you're
Hmm.
executing it manually, it doesn't matter that certain things are in iframe or shadow DOMs. And therefore, from testRigor's perspective, it's also the same thing. testRigor
Hmm.
just work completely transparently with iframes and iframes in iframes, and a shadow DOM, open shadow DOM in iframes, and iframes and shadow DOMs and iframes and shadow DOMs and shadow DOMs and shadow DOMs. Like, and it could be basically different kind of combinations. We have seen all kinds of stuff. And it's just working transparently. Of course, we're talking about open shadow DOMs. testRigor does also work with closed shadow DOMs, unlike other tools. And the way you work with closed shadow DOMs is you just enable OCR,
Hmm.
because closed shadow DOMs are otherwise unavailable. Okay, so how testRigor is different from test project
Yeah.
and all other tools on the market? Well, exactly same way as testRigor is different from Selenium. So testRigor allows you to express steps and execute steps the same way as you would do it manually, whereas test project as well as Selenium and all other tools rely on details of implementation, how it was implemented in DOM structure. So under the hood, we're relying on all of those XPaths, which in some cases we are trying to heal, which is a questionable practice in the first place. You probably shouldn't other heal those XPaths in some cases, because in some cases you'll be hiding legitimate errors. And yes, it works with Oracle Forms, SAP, Fiori, and Microsoft Dynamics, Salesforce interfaces out of the box.
Yeah.
Now, another question was how can we provide test data through Excel file? And an answer is
Yeah.
yes. So basically, if you go to test data, you can work with test data sets. Now, the created one in here, and you can add, so you see there are like rows, and you can add additional data by uploading CSV file. Basically, you'll have to export your Excel spreadsheet into CSV and then upload it into testRigor, and that should be good to go. You'll be able to run the same test based on multiple rows. Another interesting question is it paid tool or free tool? And it is both. So if you go to testRigor.com, there is a sign up page in here, and we have two options, and we are releasing soon a new pricing for paid version, which will start from $20 per month.
Oh, that's
And we
yeah.
have like currently absolutely forever free version. However, I have to warn you that this free version is designed for open source, similar to how you can create open source, free open source projects on GitHub. At least you used to, and this only applies to open source. And as soon as you go for this open source version, your text will be visible and searchable on the internet. The videos of your test will be published on YouTube, and those YouTube videos will be then published on Twitter. So it will be actually amplified intentionally, which is a good thing if you are trying to basically advertise your skills and promote your open source project. This is exactly the idea in here. So also it will be very easy for you to share your test which you wrote with other people is the way that we don't even have to log in into our tool in order to be able to see and appreciate your tests. So this is what it was designed for, basically for training, for showing off your skills, for sharing different ideas with people. It's free, but you have to be careful because it is all 100% everything you're doing in there is all visible to everyone on the internet. And then there is a standard free trial for paid version. As I mentioned, we will be coming up soon with exceptionally inexpensive version, and currently we're giving huge discounts on this version. Anyway, it starts in some cases from $200 per month right now. So talk to
Okay.
me if you'd like to get a longer free trial for paid version and cheaper paid version. So yes to both. Naveen, other questions
Yeah,
which I have missed?
I have like a couple of similar kind of questions that can we use different English words here or any specific English format words we have to use?
Excellent question. So our goal as testRigor in is to support any way how would you express things. For
Hmm.
example, you can say click, or you can say press, or you can, in case of mobile, you can say tap,
Nice.
and so on and so forth. It doesn't matter, and then you can say tap on and like check if
Hmm.
and so on and so forth. It's like ginormous amount of combinations we support, and
Hmm.
we constantly look for how our users are trying to use it in order to make sure we add support for more and more, and it just covers everything how you would say it.
Correct.
And
Okay.
one
One more question
what
we can
else?
take that
Yes.
images and the barcode testing are possible through testRigor.
Yes, image testing is possible in a sense. So you can upload images, you can compare images, you can do visual
Okay.
testing. We have out-of-the-box integration with Apply tools, so you can use the full power of Apply tools in testRigor in order to do fine-tuned visual testing, as well as you can validate different properties of any element on a page,
Hmm.
such as you can check that certain elements are bold, certain elements are italic, like what's the font size, and so on and so forth.
Okay. So in the free tool also, it's Bhikkhu Yadav is asking our scenario executed for 15 to 18 minutes. Is there any limitation of number of steps written for each test?
There is no limit on number of steps. And I'll show you the main way how our customers are using testRigor. So
Hmm.
usually how it works, and to answer another question, we have thousands of users on the platform right now.
Hmm.
And basically, the majority of customers which are using us are in a situation that we have some manual tests, and we have
Hmm.
their manual tests um, documented in some way or form. It could be like Excel spreadsheet, test
Hmm.
rail, Zephyr, or X-ray, or anything like that. And
Hmm.
the way uh, and they have their own terminology, right? So when you talking about documenting test cases, you usually talk on a higher level, right? So you're saying things like find this product or
Hmm.
purchase this product. If you're talking about Amazon, right? It's a higher level terminology as opposed to low, more specific steps. So what our customers do on our platform
Hmm.
is remember those we call whatever we call rules, you might call functions in here, so you can go in and those rules or functions are basically a sequence of steps, and of course they can be nested, and of course you can pass parameters, but point being
Hmm.
is they copy paste their own terminology, which can say, hey, find this product, find go like some other thing, go to checkout process, fill up this form, and create an account, or transfer funds from account A to account B. So all of that you can outline the way how you do it yourself, and our customers just copy paste their own terminology
Okay.
into names of those functions, literally directly from their test cases, assign those specific functions specific steps, right? What does it mean to find the product? What does it mean to fill out this form? What does it
Hmm.
mean to check out, and so on and so forth? And then we'll have this their own terminology outline. What we do is we literally go in and start copy pasting the test cases directly from Excel spreadsheet or testRail or Zephyr or whatever into testRigor, and with as
Hmm.
little uh, uh, modification as it's technically possible, we are able to convert those test cases into being executable out of the box right there, or right
Hmm.
in their own language. So basically, what we end up with, if test cases which are basically literally their own words, but they executable out of the box. And the kind of modifications you would usually do is you'll make sure which each phrase on a new line, and there is login and probably better validation and stuff like that. But other than that, just that's it. It's just literally copy paste. So using
Hmm.
this way, manual testers build 2,000 functional
Hmm.
end-to-end tests per person per year,
Hmm.
compared to on average 120 tests, which you would be able to create with Selenium, from what we have seen across the board per year. So
Hmm.
basically, you'll be able to very quickly convert almost all of your test cases into test triggers array, and it is order of magnitude faster than record and play tools, because you're relying on already existing functions in there. So
Yeah.
another question is, record and play possible? So technically, testRigor is not record and play tool. We
Hmm.
do indeed have this plugin, which will, it's a Chrome plugin. Uh, you can find it by going to resources, Chrome extension, and which will help you to formulate your steps in plain English. But it's not
Hmm.
in any shape or form is pure record and play, because usually you would need to modify it, you need to clean it up. As in basically any record and play tools, you'll need to remove like unnecessary hoovers, make sure that relative location is specified correctly, and so on and so forth. So I don't know, let's click in here and click in here and enter something in here. So basically, as you can see here, it detected automatically that I'm logged in, and added login for me automatically. And as you can
Hmm.
see, this is what I'm talking about when I'm saying you need to clean it up sometimes. But other than that, as you can see, it's just basically trying to express all of your steps in plain English as much as possible, but you might clean it up from time to time in certain cases, because the
Okay.
goal is to get to a specification.
Okay. Another couple of things like how about the weights and synchronization? Because sometimes, let's see, for Ajax component or element is taking some time to be loaded on the page. Page is also taking some time, some network issues. Does it have
Mhm.
any auto mechanism, auto wait mechanism, or
Yes. So again, it will act exactly the same way as you would do if you were
Mhm.
to execute your steps
Hmm.
manually.
Okay.
Uh, Basically, specifically, for example, like this, you're trying to enter test into first name, and this part of the page didn't load yet, right? Well,
Hmm.
testRigor will wait until it loads, and
Hmm.
then it will proceed as soon as this input is in there and it is available for interaction. So, of
Hmm.
course, what it means is there are implicit timeouts,
Hmm.
which you can all set up in settings.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
yes, answering to Varesh's question, all the tests are executed in parallel. so you can control the level of parallelization, and this is basically how testRigor is priced. And of course, you can work with multiple browsers. You can specify additional browsers. Let's add everyone's favorite, Internet Explorer, and execute on multiple browsers. Or if you're talking about devices, on multiple devices at the same time. testRigor does have its own built-in infrastructure based on latest browsers. However, you can also integrate with third-party providers like BrowserStack and Lambda Test, and
Mm-hmm.
basically work with their set of browsers and devices. And testRigor had been built to be part of CI/CD. Because of its stability, it's actually a really good application of testRigor to make it a part of CI/CD, and it's as simple as just copy pasting these pre-populated scripts with all tokens and IDs already substituted. This version bash script, which mostly used across the board in Jenkins, AWS code, and GitHub Actions, and so on and so forth. And the PowerShell is for people who use Microsoft technologies such as Azure DevOps and so on and so forth. Multiple browser windows handling is available out of the box. So basically, you would what you would do is where is it? Yeah, so you can switch tabs and stuff, but this is not what I'm looking for. Yes, so you can start browsers and device. So testRigor had been built for pure end-to-end testing, which includes web testing, mobile testing, and API testing. You can do all three in one test. And you can switch between multiple browsers and devices by starting a browser or device and switching to that, and then switching back and forth between them. So much so that you can actually test chat, and you can run, let's say, two browsers, log in into one browser with user one, to another browser in user two, and basically like validate that when user one sends a message to user two immediately gets it, and vice versa. Can it replace Selenium? Yes, it definitely can.
And what about can we connect to some other database or something?
It's not advised because like basically you relying on details of implementation now, but yes, you can. You can connect to database and run SQL queries.
Okay. Okay. And any specific browser version you support, or the latest version only?
So testRigor itself supports latest versions. However, you can work with any version through BrowserStack, Lambda Test, Source Labs is coming, and several other providers are coming.
Okay. Okay. Any limitations of this tool?
Limitations? Well, we have very limited support currently for desktop testing, like native desktop applications. I saw someone was asking, can you work with browser native Windows? Yes, you can work with browser native Windows, but that's about it. Like we don't yet support native tests. And it mostly had been it's end-to-end testing. testRigor is not really designed to do unit testing. So you should do unit tests separately. Like testRigor is not going to help you there. testRigor is pure end-to-end testing framework. And yes, it works perfectly with Microsoft Dynamics CRM. We have many customers which use testRigor to test dynamic CRM implementations.
Okay. And another thing is that if you really want to build up a logic like if else condition, loops, and all such things, you really want to iterate number of elements or if else condition. On the basis of that, you want to take a decision, store a value. Can we do such things?
So testRigor basically have ways
Hmm.
to avoid using these programmatic constructs such as
Okay.
if else, loops, and so on and so forth, because it has built-in features in order for you to cover all most common scenarios, such as,
Hmm.
for example, you'll be clicking next button until you get to your element, or you don't click a button if it doesn't exist. That is done with until stuff, or there is an if exist in case of
Hmm.
if you want to this to be conditional. However, you can write full-blown JavaScript on top of testRigor and basically do literally anything you can imagine with testRigor, or accessing an instance of a like a Selenium driver to basically
Hmm.
do your custom things if
Hmm.
something you feel like is not supported to a level which you need.
Okay. Adam, can you show the reporting part also whenever the test is getting pass or fail?
Yes, so testRigor have a very interesting approach to reporting. So
Hmm.
it basically, because it works on a higher level, it is able to detect unique issues which affect, in some cases, more than one test. In this,
Hmm.
like in this example, like your 5 times and 3 times. And I mean, in case if you're dealing with a lot of tests, which a lot of our customers do, they deal with thousands of tests,
Hmm.
it becomes a really big deal, because imagine you have 2000 tests, and a change from engineering have failed 1000 tests. If you're dealing with
Hmm.
Selenium or any other system on the market, it's a nightmare, because now you have
Hmm.
to go through your 1000 tests and figure out what's going on. The trigger will
Hmm.
show you unique issues, and it will say, okay, so this issue like affected 1000 tests, and whereas, by the way, another issue which affected one test. So, but were only two unique issues on
Hmm.
during this run. And then you can basically create quickly a Jira issue and fix by find and replace. So let's say you can say not as trigger in here. You can find all occurrences and replace selected.
Hmm. So, for example, let's see, I have written 10 test cases, and here you can see that test case affected three. Three is the test count, right? The test case count that got affected. So it will
Correct.
give you, so yeah, so that is, I think, a good feature for the maintenance point of view, because in Selenium, if any locator is getting failed or any specific method is getting failed, then I have to change that method everywhere, or that locator also on different pages also have to change. So I have to go and check each and every file manually and then change it over there.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
So someone is asking, just like we have in TestNG, do we have any options to prioritize, include or exclude the test cases?
Yes. You can easily like exclude the test cases as such. You just disable retesting
Hmm.
of this test case, and that's it. It will be disabled even though it will hang out in there.
Okay.
Um, and prioritization in a sense that there are test suite hooks where you can build the code
Mm.
which will execute before your test suite and after your test suite. This is one. And
Hmm.
second, remember we talked about those rules. You can
Mm.
basically build rules in order to be able to control in what sequence stuff is executing. But you have to keep in mind that it is not one thread execution. So it is executed in parallel on multiple servers, potentially also in multiple browsers at the same time. So you have to be cognizant on that. Like when you execute them, they'll run by default all in parallel.
Okay. And can we create some global environment variables like the username, password, and the URL at the test suite level, which can be shared with other test suites as well?
Absolutely. So like you can create global variables in here. So I showed you data sets and an extension of that where you can have multiple rows of data. But of course, you can have variables which apply to this test suite. And of course, you can also share this test suite or like inherit from other test suite. And you can choose what you're inheriting. You can inherit test cases, test data, rules, or any
Okay.
combination of those. And this had been designed basically to deal with, for example, testing on both Android and iOS. So Android and iOS testing are similar but different at the same time. So you have a different test suite, and the media is also different. Android will run on Android hardware and iOS on iOS hardware. So in order to basically deal with this more efficiently, you can have a shared test suite where you have your rules, or like you might call them functions, shared functions out loud. Some test cases might be identical across the board. And of course, you'll probably share all the test data across the board because you'll probably have the same test data for both Android and iOS.
Okay. And I think it's a good question that can we handle the user actions, for example, right click, double click, drag and drop, mouse movement, all such things.
Yes, of course. So anything you can do as a human with a browser or mobile application, including like swipes and scrolls and anything you can think of. It's all supported out of the box.
Yeah. And yeah, so sometime what we have to do is that we have to execute a script, and let's say you're taking the order ID or the customer ID, store in some variable, and then pass it to some other test, or use that field to enter some in other text field on a different page.
Yep. So that is also very much supported. So number
Hmm.
one use case is where you generate, for example, unique email. As you can see, it says and save as new email. So
Okay.
we call them the stored data. The way it works is basically you override the global variables if there are any. So then you can generate unique data, and you can grab the data from the screen. Grab
Okay.
value from certain element as described, or you can even specify regular expression in order to extract data from your screen. So there's a lot of different way how
Okay.
you can extract it.
Okay. Okay. Another question. We can take the question later if you have some other things to show, or we can. Otherwise, we can
No,
take the
I'm
questions.
open for questions right now.
Okay. So, what about other languages other than English?
As if Spanish, Chinese, and Russian.
Oh.
We currently don't support those because we trained our machine learning on specifically on English language. For us, it will be a little bit of an effort to introduce other languages in there. However, it doesn't matter; you can't use them. Remember those like rules or functions we have. You can use any symbols in here. It could be like Chinese, Japanese, like
Oh,
with
okay.
Cyrillic, Russian in this example, and so on and so forth. So you can build your own language in your own alphabet in testRigor. Well, of course, it's as soon as if it is UTF-8.
Okay. Nice. And what about like a certain example, like out of the box features, OTP and CAPTCHA, reCAPTCHA?
Great questions. So testRigor has built-in ways to deal with several things like email testing and OTP. Let me basically show you an example. Twitter. Oops. Actually, it wasn't a Twitter. I think it was this one. So this is an interesting use case, like where testRigor works with several entities at the same time in here.
Okay.
So it starts as a mobile application, as in here, right? It taps on this about button, but then it starts a browser and opens a Twitter URL, and it goes through Twitter sign up process, and it's generate unique email based on a template in here, as you can see. And then there is a command saying check that email to saved value was received, and that command actually renders the email. And then you can easily extract, remember grab value, you can extract this code from email and complete the registration. So we have another test where we have complete end-to-end sign up flow for Twitter coded. That also applies to text messages as well. testRigor supports out of the box SMS testing. And you can send text messages and receive text messages, extract the code from text message, and basically test your OTP. However, we currently do not support working with CAPTCHA because it's not reliable. Even as a human, can't always correctly enter
Yeah.
CAPTCHA. I mean, if we were to introduce this feature, we can't guarantee when it will produce the result reliably. I mean, mind you, it'll
Correct.
probably work. Like in some cases, we can make it such, but overall, it is not possible. Now, how do then people deal with CAPTCHA, right? How do we test websites which have CAPTCHA? And for that, usually our customers pass some information which disables CAPTCHA on their system, and that is, it's not a good example because it's not a web, but this is a web testing. And here you can pass custom cookies. Some of our customers turn off their CAPTCHA based on custom cookies. Some of them turn it off based on a custom user agent. I mean, there's the different ways how you can pass the information to system under test that it shouldn't use CAPTCHA.
Okay. And as you already mentioned that uh, majorly not supported with the desktop application, but can we automate some email clients like Outlook or yeah, getting the email body from the Outlook?
Desktop testing will be coming eventually into testRigor. Stay tuned, probably this year. However, like currently, we working with emails ourselves, and the way we do it is we run email servers, and like we render email ourselves in a Chrome browser, using Chrome browser. So
Okay.
basically, so you can work with emails, but it wouldn't be specifically some specific email client at this point.
Okay. Okay. Another thing is the question, what about the environment specific testing, like QA environment, dev environment, and the UAT environment? And then URL will be changed, the username password will be changed, the tested data will be changed.
Yep.
So do we have any configuration like that?
Yes, of course. So you can change it manually, of course. And when
Hmm.
you trigger it in the CI/CD,
Hmm.
you can override the URL. Where is it? Bum bum. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So you can override the URL, and in stored values, you can override username and password, as well as basically any test data whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Correct. Correct. I can see people are asking about a stale element reference, and I think, guys, it's not. Do not compare with the Selenium or Cypress, because it's the architecture and the mechanism is totally different as compared to the typical Selenium and Cypress automation testing that we do. So
Yes.
the
So
way the user is behaving, exactly same way a test trigger is also executing the test cases.
yeah, exactly. We do not have those problems like Selenium and Cypress with stale elements,
Hmm.
because the way testRigor works is it emulates how you as a human would execute those tests.
Hmm.
Like you as a human don't care about about those details of HTML implementation. You're dealing with visible
Hmm.
elements on the page, and so does a testRigor.
Okay. Hmm. Okay. And okay, what about the JavaScript pop-ups, the alerts?
You can work with JavaScript alerts. By default, we have an option to close them all automatically. However, you
Okay.
can interact with them more intelligently and answer questions,
Hmm.
enter data into those pop-up JavaScript pop-up alerts.
Okay. 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 Do you provide any logging also, or just directly report?
Uh, you well, um, you have a little bit better logging, right? So
Hmm.
there are steps and a screenshot with a step where it is highlighted where action had been taken, and in case of any like logs which you get in the browser, you have a
Hmm.
way to see console log from the browser, so you can
Hmm.
open it up and see what was happening in the console in the browser on any single step. So in that sense, yes, it's all very available. In case of mobile
Hmm.
application, you'll have some similar action access to basically mobile log.
Okay. Looks good.
Yeah, to reiterate, CI/CD is as simple as copy pasting with Bash script into your CI/CD systems such as Jenkins or and such.
Hmm. Okay. I think a couple of people they asked this question, that multi-region support. I think it's something related to localization testing with different
Multi-region
locales.
support. Yes, of course, it is available out of the box. There it goes. So you just specify the language
Okay.
for your application, and it will run this application for language. It applies
Hmm.
to mobile, I believe, with web as well. And yes, Jitendra testRigor tests a native and hybrid mobile application transparently,
Both for iOS and Android, right?
both for iOS and Android, correct?
Okay. Great. So, any other question, guys, feel free to ask. And any specific scenario that you feel that with respect to UI, Artem, any limitation for the UI that is still in progress, or integration with, for example, the collaboration like Git repositories and everything, so that multiple people can work together on the same script, updating the script, and then we are getting the conflicts or like that. Is it in
Oh
pipeline or it's
yes.
already there?
So testRigor had built for joint collaboration. People can modify this
Hmm.
scripts together. We can access a tool together using single sign-on, using
Hmm.
like, for example, Google or Microsoft, Okta, what have you. Um, and testRigor does not charge by number of users. Anyone in the
Okay.
company will be able to access the tool with
Hmm.
single sign-on.
Okay.
Yes,
So
we do
then,
support audio testing as well. You can test that, for example, your video is playing
hmm.
like via audio. You can test audio chats using our tool and
Hmm.
so on and so forth.
And we face some major issues with the canvas, HTML5 canvas with Selenium or any other automation tool. It's really like very, very difficult to automate with Selenium.
Yes.
Like,
So
for example, yeah, Google
mhm.
Maps, such things, Google Maps or any Apple Maps, certain things can be automated.
Yes, we have a huge number of customers uh, uh, basically doing automation with maps on our platform. The applications similar to Uber and in different other countries,
Hmm.
like where you track your stuff in the map in the mobile applications, and
Hmm.
we have customers like Drone Deploy, which manages maps in the web, and so on and so forth. It works out of the box in case. However, Canvas is a different thing. If you have other elements in Canvas, then you can
Hmm.
enable OCR and
Okay.
deal with closed shadow DOM or canvas-based rendering out of the box. We
Hmm.
do have customers doing that as well.
Okay. Okay. And I think I can see there is a BDD format also. You can write the script in the behavior driven development format as well.
Yes. So basically, um, testRigor is perfect BDD tool because scripts
Okay.
are pure plain text, plain English.
Hmm.
You can write those scripts
Hmm.
before engineers are done uh, with coding. So basically, usually what we see across the board, how companies use BDD is that uh, business sometimes will write. I mean, in mind you, you have to have really good business partners, so which will actually write a Gherkin formatted
Exactly.
specifications for you. Because sometimes it's not even that. But let's say we are willing to do that, we'll write it for you in Gherkin. But then what happens is engineers will build the code, and then QA engineers would test that code. And if we were to write tests for that new code, then we'll basically playing catch-up games. We're discovering that hey, engineers didn't understand the specification and didn't do the right work. What it ends up with oftentimes is engineers have to rewrite the stuff because there
Hmm.
was a misunderstanding of like how it is was written in Gherkin, like and how it was implemented by engineers. So that is a painful and slow process, and it forces QA to play catch-up game. And it's basically then you basically like you kind of squeezing QA and you losing quality in your QA because it's very hard to quickly build up automation after the fact. after engineers
Correct.
already done, especially if engineers took a little bit longer than we were supposed to deliver the feature, then it's just almost no time for QA engineers to build the steps. So it's a kind of a disastrous approach where barely or doesn't fit agile. So in testRigor, remember this, those especially reusable rules. There's not much in here, but there's more examples in here. You can, your business partners can write a specification for you in their own language. And since
Hmm.
you might have this language already outlined in here, and with some help of QA, it could be very quickly and easily converted to executable specification in almost that exact language. And then now QA is before engineering. So QA is building executable specification in English, which engineers can run to make sure whatever we are building is actually
Hmm.
working the way we would expect. And again, let's say you are in QA and you're helping outline those rules for your business, and because you're doing it in plain English, you can come back to product owner and ask, hey, I wasn't sure like if go to registration is supposed to take these steps, or maybe
Hmm.
there's something else in here because maybe I misunderstood that. Is that how you would expect it to be? And because it's English, they not only can review it and give direct feedback right away, they can even
Hmm.
sometimes fix it up if they understand that it should have been a login instead
Yeah.
of sign in or something like that.
Yeah.
So they can fix it up sometimes themselves. I remind you, most probably QA would be building majority of that, but still product owners could be involved very
But
significantly.
but generally the product owners, they write the Gherkin keywords like given, when, then.
You
So
can.
if they are, yeah. Hmm.
So basically, testRigor is in that sense as a superset of Gherkin. So
Okay.
Gherkin is a small subset which forces you to follow certain strict rules, whereas in
Hmm.
testRigor you don't have to. You can say here like given blah blah blah, and you can literally have this
Hmm.
kind of follow like Gherkin language approach if you are willing to do so. But
Hmm.
usually no people in their right
Hmm.
mind are actually talking like this. It's not a
Correct.
language you use internally to describe how your application works. It's just like it's more like a step towards engineering now. You can use Gherkin if you want to, but you don't have to struggle. You
Hmm.
can basically stick to your own language, how
Hmm.
you and your business express things themselves right now in their own
Hmm.
words.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay.
So yeah, regarding security testing, we have integrations with third-party tools for security testing. And for performance
Hmm.
testing, there is an option for load testing. It's not available by default, but we can enable it for customers. And once we will roll out new
Hmm.
pricing, then this load testing will be available with new pricing. Current pricing just doesn't fit the model, unfortunately. That's why we currently enable load testing on
Hmm.
case-by-case basis, but it's very straightforward because you're basically reusing the same tests to run them as load tests, and the way it works is exactly how you would expect it to work. It basically compares to previous load run and sees if there are any regressions in performance on any step or any test.
Okay. Yeah. So for example, let's say if I really want to create a CI/CD pipeline, the moment the build is generated and then I want to trigger my test cases through Jenkins or any other CI/CD tool. So are your customer using it exactly like that and integrated with Jenkins?
Yeah,
That I
it's
think you, yeah.
majority of our customers use Jenkins. We just add a stage
Hmm.
and copy paste bash script, and it just execute bash script as soon as the stage of deployment is finished, then we
Hmm.
kick off testRigor tests. I mean, there are multiple steps, right? The build, unit test, deployment, and then we
Hmm.
kick off testRigor test as one of the steps. So it's
Okay.
definitely in there. So how do we deal with failures as a good question. So there are several ways how you deal with those. So first of all, testRigor had been designed to provide you as stable test as it's technically possible, especially
Hmm.
take care of the stuff which you are not responsible for and you do
Hmm.
not control, such as sometimes browser crashes have nothing to do with
Hmm.
your application whatsoever. I mean, mind you, if you consistently crash the browser, then we will
Hmm.
of course show it to you as an error saying, hey, you crashed the browser. However, it's just one-off, or server have died, or is network timeout, or something which is related to infrastructure and not related to application itself. testRigor will
Hmm.
take care of it automatically by detecting this situation and rerunning the test for you out of the box so you don't notice. However, in certain situations, it's up to extreme because you're relying on third parties and you have some flakiness because of third parties you don't have control over.
Hmm.
In this particular case, we have an option where you can automatically retry your test on any failures, and
Okay.
people who are running tens of thousands of tests in
Hmm.
testRigor automatically oftentimes rely on that to make sure it is exceptionally stable.
Perfect. That's a really great feature. Okay. And what about the accessibility testing, tabbing, focus, screen reader, and then some accessibility testing codes? Are HTML tags are there? Will it recognize?
So we do have access to, if you're talking about accessibility testing,
Yeah.
where is it? Like, yeah, it is out of the box. So my daughter today is very talkative. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, like, basically, we have built-in accessibility testing. You can
Hmm.
enable it all and run the tests out of the box. And
Hmm.
what was, sorry, the second question?
No, that's the same thing. Yeah. Another thing is that what about a W3C compliance? Because sometimes what happens, Selenium was also struggling the same thing 3, 4 years back before Selenium 4, that they were supporting the JSON via protocol via server and then interacting with the browser.
Uh-huh.
So if we have to just justify to use testRigor at my company, and then how exactly internally it is working, and then is it following the W3C compliance or
No,
like that?
like we had to rewrite a lot of stuff from scratch because things
Hmm.
don't work consistently, especially if you're talking, for example, about legacy browsers like Internet Explorer. It's just
Hmm.
you can't do this new fancy ways of dealing with it. Um, so, like in a lot of cases, what the testRigor is doing is it's just literally moving mouse, doing clicks,
Hmm.
like doing
Hmm.
drags if you need to do drag and drops, typing on a
Hmm.
keyboard, emulating the way how would you do it as a human.
Okay. Okay. So someone is asking when exactly the new pricing launch.
It's a little bit a larger effort from our side because anything related to billing
Hmm.
and pricing is a big, large, complex change. So it'll take us probably a couple of months. So by May we should release that. But it's coming up very, very soon. It's very high priority for us.
Okay. Yeah, but a screen recorder is possible. You can take the video and you can customize it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, you can. I think it's in integrations. You can record video for your test case execution. So
Hmm.
remember, I was saying that for for a free open source account, this you can't even turn off this feature. It will always record the video
Wow.
and
Okay.
post it for you. But for private
Okay.
accounts, you can turn it on or off, and those videos will be
Hmm.
private. They will not be
Hmm.
shared or published.
Okay. I think most of the questions that we have taken, and one more thing, yeah, I think the Zira integration is there. You can raise a bug directly, but can you call the Zira APIs to mark your test cases pass or fail?
Yes, we have like a lot of test case management system integration out of the box, and we're like X-Ray
Hmm.
and several others coming up soon, like
Hmm.
Azure DevOps, testRigor, and Zephyr, and several others. And basically, the whole point of it is that it sets a status of a test case in that test case management system. Well, it's usually a
Hmm.
little bit more interesting than that, because you would usually would create a run, you will create the test from test cases into that run, and when you'll set the status, you can close and keep that run open, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of
Hmm.
details into that integration, but it would work exactly as you would expect, and it would have all the features you might expect of this kind of integration. Moreover, is we actually have very funny integration with TestRail, which is other
Hmm.
way around.
Hmm.
Whereas you can deploy our plugin within TestRail and
Hmm.
run testRigor tests from TestRail. So you can literally
Wow.
phrase it the way
Hmm.
like a testRigor will understand in TestRail, and
Hmm.
just execute it from there, because remember, it's all plain text.
Yeah, that's a really great thing, and I would advise and everyone I would like, request that okay, guys, just go and at least check this tool. Personally, I really liked it because it's having that capability. First of all, it's not at all dependent on the DOM structure, XPath, complex CSS, the complex code that you really don't need to know anything about the programming. Simple, write the plain English sentence and design the way you're designing the test cases in your Excel sheet for manual test cases. Exactly same thing. You start writing it over here instead of writing the test cases in Zephyr or in X-Ray. Better you start writing the test cases directly here in the same format, and then you are doing both the things together, manual test cases as well as same time you are writing the automation also. So this question, can we say it will completely replace Cypress and Selenium, new era of codeless automation?
Well, I'm not an oracle, but I believe that it's all have its own niche, right? testRigor is
Hmm.
pure end-to-end testing system, and I believe
Hmm.
it will basically completely replace anything else which where people struggle to use for end-to-end testing.
Hmm.
However, if you're talking about unit testing, you might continue to use things like Cypress or Selenium for your
Hmm.
unit tests, because in unit tests, this is where you hook up into your specific
Hmm.
details of implementation. So it just will be different use cases.
Hmm.
It's not either or, sometimes both.
Hmm.
However, for end-to-end testing, acceptance testing, I believe people would start finally
Hmm.
use common sense and use common sense testing like testRigor.
Yeah, so again, same question. Maybe Fedros, you joined a little late. You don't need any programming language to know and to use this and to get the mastery on this tool. So how much time it takes to understand the commands? That's up to you.
Uh, it's usually a lot of people just try writing that, and the
Hmm.
way you work is you can install Chrome plugin and record a couple of
Hmm.
steps to see how testRigor does it, and then you'll be able to
Hmm.
just do it on your own. Even before
Hmm.
that, you can just write it up, and it'll most
Hmm.
probably just run.
Hmm.
So it's just almost zero time to start. In case
Hmm.
if you have doubts, then you can just always click on documentation and search it there and
Correct.
read it up.
Yeah, Viresh, because the more and more you use this tool, see, I've been using this tool from last 7, 8 days or maybe 2 weeks, and then already started and getting the things, and then maybe in future you can provide some auto suggestions also, Antrim, right, Artem? Like the moment we
Yes,
right click
that
and
will
then
be
auto
coming up.
suggestions. Great.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And one more question that we can take, that can we store all the screenshot and video on our own infrastructure? Sometimes clients are asking not to save the data on test service provider. Yeah, that's like majority of the people they ask this question in the company, especially in the fintech or any confidential application that you are using, which is like internally you are using, and you don't want to upload the screenshot on your infrastructure on your cloud.
Well, good news is we are fully SOC 2 compliant. So we are very
Mm-hmm.
secure and everything is tied up and repeatedly tested by hackers
Mm-hmm.
in our system. However, we do have a way to deploy the whole testRigor system on premise
Mm-hmm.
for companies like banks and such if we really want to run everything on premise. Just more expensive option in any sense of this word, because now you will be dealing with a lot of more stuff than you should have, but it is definitely possible.
Great, great. Yeah, so yeah, much better than Tosca. I personally believe that yes, it is much better than Tosca. So yeah, a couple of people are asking about, can you share the documentation link? So guys, yeah, we will share the documentation link and other useful links where you can sign up and everything in the description of this video and the first comment of this video as well.
Yes, so it's basically very easy to find. If you go to testRigor.com, then this is a link to documentation. It says plain English, and it's a link
Hmm.
to sign up. It's just sign up. So if you click on plain English, this is all this. I apologize about that. All the documentation is in there.
Sure. And yeah, so yeah, we don't need any specific IDE to use it. You can directly open in the browser and then start using it, or you can write in your Sublime or Notepad also, and then copy paste your script over here directly. Great. Any other question we can take? Shankar is asking, the script is only specific to the test case. How we can use the same script to execute different test cases?
Well, it's not advised, but you can. Remember with test data sets, which we were talking about, you create test data set and you can have multiple rows with
Hmm.
different data for the same test. So this is probably what you have in mind.
Okay. And can we do the data scrapping, the web scrapping using testRigor?
Yes, you can. With the grab command, you can grab any data from an element. So
Hmm.
for the pricing, as I mentioned, it is 1,800 a month because by default it includes all the conceivable infrastructure, including
Hmm.
running OSs, Macs in the cloud, and so on and so forth. If
Hmm.
you are fine with running just let's say web on Linux OS, let's say Chrome, then it could be as low as like $200.
Hmm. Hmm. Correct, correct. Okay, so yeah, um, yeah, quite promising. People are liking it. So I would like still suggest guys just go and then start using it. You just need to sign up, log in, and then start using this tool and then keep exploring. The documentation is very straightforward, very simple language that they have written, and then use your creativity of for writing the test cases, and then run your test cases, and then keep exploring as much as test cases that you want to do it.
So basically, this is me on LinkedIn. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'll be happy to answer any additional questions if you'd like.
Sure.
Always happy to help.
Yeah, so we will keep coming live with the test rigger team. Whenever there is a new release or new features or upcoming features are there, in upcoming releases, we will try to educate people. Very soon, I'm also coming with a new series on this tool on the channel, and then definitely you guys can have a look, and then we will prepare some really good videos. And I really strongly prefer this tool for the manual QA, especially that you guys are writing, and then start writing your manual test cases directly into it, and then start using it for your automation test cases, and start doing with some POCs and present the things to the management. And if you everything goes good, and I think the pricing is also quite suitable, and not that seat pricing as compared to like HPQTP or other tools are available in the market. So I think yeah, or you can contact to Artem directly. He's available on LinkedIn all the time, and uh, always active and always helpful to reply your questions. Feel free to contact him. Any other thing, Artem, you want to say some last words?
No, I just want to wish everyone luck, and say if you need any help, we'll always happy to help.
Great, great. Thank you so much. So thank you so much, guys. Thanks. I hope you really liked the session. If you really liked it, please like the videos and share with others. Subscribe to the channel, and then please start using this tool. Share this to video, and it will be available on our channel also forever. The recording immediately will be available. You can share this recording with other folks as well in your company, with your colleagues on LinkedIn or different other social medias as well. I hope it will definitely help other manual QA tester to learn about automation and to quickly, automate the things. Thank you so much for joining the session. Thank you, Adam. Thank you so much once again for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.